Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBingeIT. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're on Season 4, Episode 2, The Gift. This episode aired September 10th, 1997. Before we talk about this one, any comments about last week's episode, which was Scorpion Part 2?
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, I think it was.
That was a really good way to start off a new season. It was actually a really good second part of an episode, and I thought it worked really well. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we either do the wrap-up of a big cliffhanger or one of those sort of overhead episodes where they're trying to give you the feeling that a lot of time has passed and everything's calmed down and right, and we're sort of, back to start from the beginning again.
Yeah.
And this was a wrap-up of a big one, yeah.
And they stuck the landing on this one. Excellent.
Yeah, they did, and they even kind of extended it right into this episode. We kind of start right where we left off and, wrap up a few of the loose ends.
Right.
So are you ready to start talking about The Gift?
Yes, let's get underway.
I don't have the notes.
We had a little bit of confusion over who should be doing the notes for which episodes. And Kim is still annoyed about it.
Yeah, but we're good. I was so mad because I took notes when I didn't need to, and it's annoying because it was a lot of work. Anyway, back to normal.
We open on a Voyager flyby, and it's still covered in Borg tech. Although, I'm not quite sure why they added all of that, because it's not like the Borg tech did a lot against species 8472.
Yeah.
But it does add a nice green glow to the ship, which kind of looks sort of cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Off to the mini Borg cube in a shuttle bay, and we see 7 of 9 in a Borg alcove. They haven't got rid of it yet. The Doctor is giving Janeway an update on 7, or the newest addition to our family, as Janeway puts it. So Janeway is being very welcoming.
And we make sure we get the camera angle just right to get maximum boob impact. And there's a point, too, in this scene where Janeway is like eye to boob level. And I think that is not ideal.
I noticed Tuvok is carrying a phaser as well.
I do like that we have security for a change.
The Doctor details that 7's human physiology is reasserting itself, and he's not sure how this will all work out. Waking 7, she immediately demands this drone be returned to the Borg. Janeway tells her she's not returning 7 to the collective, and she won't leave her on a planet, as 7 won't survive without medical care. 7 wants nothing from Janeway, declaring, "We are Borg." But before she says anything more, 7 flinches in pain, and the Doctor determines an implant is being rejected by the underlying tissue, and it has to be removed. Considering how many implants she must have, I'm surprised she's not in some kind of biological shock just from her immune system with just everything all at once kicking off.
Yeah, it does feel like we underplay this because she was a child when they assimilated her.
Yes.
So her insides would have grown with those things. So I can't imagine that it would be easy to just turn them off or start unplugging them and think everything was going to be fine.
Right. 7 resists all of this and has to be subdued by Tuvok before the Doctor sedates her, all the while shouting, "We are Borg," and into the opening credits.
Very dramatic.
Well, I think this is a textbook example of, well, that went really well.
No.
In sickbay, the Doctor is rushing to operate on 7 and is a little annoyed that Tuvok is in the surgical bay. But as Tuvok points out, this Borg is a security risk, but he does compromise with the Doctor by taking just one step back.
The Doctor's a hologram. Can't he just hologram his way through Tuvok and keep walking?
I think you can also hear the unspoken sarcastic reply from Tuvok there of, "I'll just stand over here then." Mm-hmm. That's what he was thinking. And then the fun starts. The Doctor asks Kes to anesthetize 7, and she just looks at a hypospray on a tray, and it flies from the tray into her hand.
That was cool.
Tuvok is now concerned her psychokinetic abilities have returned, or she's found a way to use the Force.
Tuvok, the downer, is back. Oh, something happened? This must be bad.
Yeah, this is bad. As the doctor scans Kes, he confirms the telepathic centers of her brain are in hyperstimulation, the same way as when she was in communication with species 8472. So this is their fault. I have some overanalysis on that.
Okay.
In Janeway's ready room, Chakotay is giving a briefing. They're having trouble removing all the Borg tech from the ship, and they can't get to warp. Also, they're detecting recent Borg activity in the area of space they're passing through. So things just keep on getting better for them.
Yeah. Is this always what Janeway's office has looked like?
Oh, normally don't we see it from the other side?
I don't know.
They expanded it?
Well, it looked like there was a lot of green in it now, and I don't remember it being green before.
Well, she might have got some plants. Or it could be Borg influence.
Not plants. Like the things on the wall and different things are green. I don't know. I just didn't remember it.
I admit, I did not notice that.
But when I read through Memory Alpha, it didn't mention that. That normally is the kind of thing they would mention in Memory Alpha. So I don't know.
They accidentally disassembled the set between seasons. Janeway has done some digging and found 7 of 9 in the Federation database. Annika Hansen. Her parents were unconventional explorers wanting nothing to do with Starfleet and were last reported aiming their small ship at the Delta Quadrant and were never heard from again. Chakotay speculates they could have been the first humans assimilated, and they were also the first humans to discover the Delta Quadrant is the quadrant of jerks.
Yep.
All of this happened 20 years ago, and Annika was basically raised by the Borg, and it was the only life she ever knew. Janeway's not prepared to toss 7 back to the wolves, and then the doctor calls, as they're having some problems. Okay, so how big is the Federation database on just a normal starship? I mean, don't they have billions of citizens in the Federation? And do they have, like, detailed information on everyone, on just every starship?
I mean, that's what it implies. Although there have also been times where they haven't had whatever information it wasn't available to them. But somehow we have this.
Yeah. Are there no data privacy laws anymore?
Yeah, because they weren't in Starfleet.
Yeah. And they were just Federation citizens. This has the feeling more of a dystopian nightmare than an idealistic future.
Well, it's possible it's in there because they were at Deep Space, what was it, 4?
Yeah.
So it's possible because they were at a Starfleet station or a Federation station that maybe that's why they're in the database. Or maybe because they went to the Delta Quadrant or, there was something unique about them and it wasn't that they have every single person.
Okay, I could see that, like, kind of like how if you're flying, you have to file a flight plan.
Although doesn't she specifically say they didn't file a flight plan of where they were going?
Yeah, but they would have to have some record of them being at the station.
Yeah.
And maybe who the crew or who was on board. So, okay. So if
they stamped their passport, their space passport.
Yeah. So if they have sort of information about the comings and goings of ships in their database, okay, that's more acceptable.
But how did they get to the Delta Quadrant? I guess it depends on how far out
that Deep Space Station was, yeah.
Deep Space 4 was, yeah. And, I mean, they couldn't have started on Earth, is my point.
Yeah. Well, they said they just pointed their ship in that direction, so...
But it's a 70-year trip, right?
Yeah, we wave our hand at that.
Although I guess not exactly. It's a 70-year trip to where Voyager started.
Yeah.
I don't know how long of a trip it is to the edge.
Well, and we know the Borg can make it to Earth pretty easily, so you could always say...
use the transwarp conduits.
Yeah. So maybe they were transwarping nearer the Alpha Quadrant.
Oh, got it.
And then doing a little bit of assimilation.
Okay.
Now in sickbay, the doctor is removing implants from 7 and informs Janeway all the Borg tech is being rejected by 7's human immune system. To save her life, he has to remove the Borg tech, which he knows is the last thing that 7 would want. The doctor explains he is ethically obligated to honor that request. But Janeway makes a call, explaining under all that technology, she is still human, and then calmly says, proceed with the surgery. I really liked the way Mulgrew delivered that. The way she did this pause before saying proceed.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be headcanon, but I look at the way Janeway was behaving there, the way she was reacting, as almost disgust at what the Borg had done to this person. Like they'd mutilated her for their own benefit. I really like that conversation. I like the doctor's fact that he's been programmed with these ethical subroutines that he can't go against what he knows would be the patient's wishes. And Janeway as the captain is like, don't care. Do it. I mean, she's doing it for I would say for the right reasons, but there's a wonderful sort of sense you get with Janeway of your ethical concerns are invalid in this situation.
Yeah, but there was the Tuvix thing where the doctor said, oh, I can't do it, you know, and Janeway had to go and press the button or whatever. So why is this different?
Yeah.
But it was against the patient's wishes, is my point.
And I think that's one of the failings in the Tuvix episode there, because the patient's wishes, the patients are Tuvok and Neelix, not whatever this transporter accident thought of things.
And they couldn't speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in that episode, they needed Janeway to push the button so that we could put all the pain on the captain.
Oh, yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, make the captain feel guilty. Although there was nothing to feel guilty about.
No. We are in agreement.
So based on that, you would say the doctor shouldn't have been able to even carry out this procedure?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Maybe B'Elanna, in some of that tweaking she did to the program, was she put in a do what the captain tells you.
Yeah, override can be done. Like maybe Janeway could have overridden him in Tuvix, but didn't. I do agree here that it seems like Janeway's being so empathetic and she's really trying to figure out how to balance her decisions to do what's right, but it's such a weird situation. Nothing she could relate to really. But it's kind of like that thing where Americans used to think everybody wanted to be American. We don't kid ourselves about that anymore. But anyway, she can't possibly relate to it, to what's really happening, but she's thinking, of course she wants to be human again.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants to be human. It's like the argument they had in whichever Star Trek movie it was where the Klingons were like, "Ugh, you humans, you always think," because when they talk about inalienable rights.
Inalienable rights, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I believe it is the Klingon chancellor. And she says, even your language is racist.
Yeah. Well, sure.
After Janeway leaves, the doctor begins, but Seven goes into neural shock. And when he asks Kes to help, Kes just tells him she can see it. And we go into this cool visual effect sequence where we see from Kes's viewpoint, she seems to fly into Seven's brain. And we can see the actual Borg implant attached to a nerve. The doctor asks how they can remove it, but Kes just causes the implant to shut down and float away and seems to start dissolving. And the doctor reports Seven's nervous system is now stabilizing.
Even though there's some Borg tech floating around in her brain.
Yeah.
Dissolving.
What's wrong with that? It'll be fine.
Nah, no big deal.
Yeah. And so I think we see Kes's powers have taken a little bit of a leap there.
Mm-hmm.
Back from the ad break, and the doctor is showing Janeway the replacement eyeball he's fabricated for Seven. And he's really proud of it. It's true to form. He is gushing about his own brilliance and how he managed to match the color of the iris. And he doesn't even he totally misses Janeway's sarcasm there.
Yeah.
Janeway also talks to Kes, who tells her she's feeling exhilarated and her telepathic abilities are stronger than they've ever been. Tuvok calls caution on this and suggests they start guided meditation, and they will start immediately.
Tuvok.
I think here the doctor needs to remind Tuvok what happened last time.
Yeah. First of all, always skeptical. Tuvok the Downer's back. And I mean, at this point, it's like, why do you think you know better? You don't know anything about what's happening to her.
Well, I think, he is an expert in mental discipline. I think he's just trying to help her with keeping them under control.
Mm.
You don't seem convinced.
Well, it just seems a bit know-it-all-y to me.
He is a Vulcan.
Yeah, very Vulcan moment.
Staying in sickbay, the doctor wakes Seven, who now has far fewer Borg bits sticking in her head. And she's pretty annoyed, asking, "What have you done to me?" and describing it as unacceptable.
Her favorite two words are unacceptable and insufficient. She's got these things on her shoulder that look like duct tape.
Oh,
and she looks right at it and it's like, no, that's not duct tape. It's dermoplastic grafts. Sure. It's duct tape.
Well, you got to use some cheap practical effects at some point.
Yeah, like the tinfoil in whichever episode of Deep Space Nine.
The awesome wig as well.
I gotta look up the name of that episode because we reference it all the time and neither one of us can remember which episode it was.
Now talking with Janeway, Seven tells her this drone cannot survive outside the collective. But the Doctor pipes up, saying, I beg to differ, and very cheerfully goes on to explain how her human systems are thriving, before Janeway delivers a full Janeway maneuver to the Doctor. And he hurries away to find something else to do. That was such a perfect look from Janeway.
Yeah.
Seven is extremely combative. As Janeway tries talking to her, Seven describes herself as an individual, calling herself small. She laments she is now one voice, one mind, declaring, the silence is unacceptable. We need the others. Janeway tries to appeal to her that she's now part of a human community. She could have some of that same unity she requires on Voyager. Seven just replies again with her favorite word, insufficient.
Insufficient.
And Janeway, unmoved, replies, it'll have to do. Janeway then asks Seven to help remove the Borg tech that was added to Voyager, finally telling her, you must comply, which I thought was kind of a nice touch. If she's still stuck in Borg mode, that's actually a really smart approach. Probably something instinctual, built in, like hard-coded into the Borg, is that they must comply with the will of the Queen. And Janeway, in this case, kind of is the Queen of the Voyager Collective.
That's interesting that you like that. I thought that was really out of place.
Really?
Like, she wasn't trying to remind Seven that she was Borg. She was trying to get her to see that something else was better.
Yeah.
But she had an opportunity here to be an individual, but part of a different type of collective, but then she talked to her like a Borg.
I think it worked because if you're like, that's the language Seven at this point understands.
It was just so out of place with the whole conversation they were having, is all.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you know, she's talking to her like she's a human, and all of a sudden she says, you must comply. And it's just like, what?
Wouldn't you think that would happen? Because Janeway would reach a point of going, oh, she's still too Borg.
I guess. Didn't feel earned.
In engineering, Harry and B'Elanna try powering up the warp core, and it fails. And Janeway arrives with Seven to help rid them of the Borg tech. There's a funny part here where Seven demonstrates how she can fully recall the engineering specification from Voyager. And B'Elanna also refers to the Borg modifications as a Borg circus. She is definitely not happy with all this stuff messing up her engineering.
Yeah, it's like Miles O'Brien. Don't touch my stuff. I just got it working.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And also in this scene, it looks like they have a security guy assigned to follow a Seven around too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Although he's not a lot of help, as it turns out.
Yeah. In his quarters, Tuvok and Kes are working on the meditation technique, which involves controlling the flame from a small lamp, which seems wildly dangerous considering what happened before.
Yeah, why wouldn't we assume the same thing was going to happen?
Yeah, at least have, get one of the security guys with a fire extinguisher standing behind Tuvok.
Yeah.
Or have the Doctor present. It's, that
an
one
emergency transport. Because didn't she, start burning Tuvok from the inside or something?
Yeah. Well, Kes now seems to have the ability to control the flame at a subatomic level, but tells Tuvok she can see beyond the subatomic. Tuvok tells her there's nothing beyond subatomic. But Kes insists she can see it. It's a new level of reality, and it's beautiful. As Tuvok watches, the lamp appears to ripple and move in waves, and then stop, all under Kes's control. And we close with Tuvok looking very uncomfortable at this development.
Yeah, and Kes is like, that was fun.
Yeah, exactly. It seems wildly dangerous that he would be doing that alone in this situation, especially now that Kes seems to be on another level.
Yeah, and I mean, I just feel like we've had this exact scene and she just lost control. But now it's like they put it together to convince us that it was different.
Oh, that's
Do you know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah. They're replaying the scene, except this time Kes is fully in control. And beyond control, she can actually modify matter if she wishes.
Yeah. She wants to try and control a new level of reality. I mean, what could go wrong? It's fine.
I accidentally collapsed the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
Back in engineering, Seven is helping remove the Borg tech. Harry asks how they came up with this technology, and Seven tells him they assimilated this technology from species 259. So there's another race they've destroyed.
Yeah, she says, we came up with nothing.
Yeah. This has to be pretty terrible, really. I mean, you've got a Borg there. I mean, because she's still rather significantly Borg.
Mhm.
And they've destroyed thousands of worlds by this point and killed or assimilated billions. It's like you have part of a giant mass murdering collective it working with you.
Yeah, since they assimilated the people who came up with this, wouldn't they then think they came up with it? You know what I mean?
Oh.
Wouldn't that just be a part of them?
That's
I mean, it was
point.
a good line because it's more meaningful that way. But I would think that the collective would just absorb it as their own history as well. But I guess that's not how it works.
I guess the Borg just take the technology. They don't consider anything of the race that created it. So they just say it's ours now.
Yes. Yeah, I guess. But they would have the memories.
Yeah, of how they came about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is one of the problems, I think, with the Borg, where they say, oh, the Borg don't invent, they don't create, they just assimilate. Well, you'd have all the memories of all the people, of how it worked, of who created it, who built it. You potentially then would have a massive pool of creative talent.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the Queen turns everything off, doesn't allow anybody to actually do any development work.
Yeah, because now you're part of one big brain.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be able to use that one big brain to develop things?
Yes, well, and they do.
And we see it. So the idea that the Borg can't improvise or create anything, it's almost a contradiction because we see them do that.
Yeah.
B'Elanna sends Harry and Seven off to work in a Jeffries tube. And Harry tries making small talk with Seven, which does not go very well. The Borg are not known for chit-chat.
Well, he's like, you've probably met a lot of people. Oh.
We have assimilated and enslaved lots of people. Don't know about met them. Do you watch much sports, maybe?
Yeah. Guys into football? No.
It makes me wonder if Harry realizes who he's actually talking to. Harry's just a nice guy. He just wants to get on with people.
Yeah, he recognizes the awkwardness of what he said.
While they're working, we see Seven uses her optical implant and identifies a Starfleet communications node. Which, if she has full schematics and understanding of the ship, why would she scan to find one? Shouldn't she know where all of these things are to start with?
I mean, they needed the drama, but I guess she still has a human brain. It's not like she can store, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
When she's part of the collective, she's got access to everybody's memories, but now she only has access to her own. So how much could she really have stored in there unless she's got an external hard drive somewhere?
That's probably one of the implants that is being rejected.
Yeah.
Seven calls Harry over, and as he turns, she strikes him, sending him flying into the security officer, and they both go down.
Poor Harry. Always the first to go.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I'll point out, the security officer, who was standing outside, looking in the opposite direction.
They're always looking the wrong direction.
Are all these guys that bad?
And how did knocking out one knock both of them out? The only thing I could, because I watched it a couple times, like, I don't get it. He should have been able to just get back up, but then she erected a force field, so I guess she did that. She just sort of knocked them out of the way so she could get the force field up. Yeah.
But if you're tasked to watch the person, I think the idea is to watch them, not to stand outside the Jeffries tube having a smoke or something.
They're never paying attention. Because that also happened in Displaced, remember? The security guy was like looking around, and then he got knocked
watching
out.
The warp core.
Yeah. Watching the warp core. This is pretty.
Okay, some headcanon here.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this is why in the alternative future from...
Before and after.
Neelix is the security chief. And I feel that the reason why he got that, and the way Tuvok might describe it is, he was the least useless of all of them.
Yeah.
On the bridge, Tom notices someone is trying to access the subspace transmitter.
Gee, I wonder who.
And B'Elanna informs us Seven's erected a force field and bypassed the security protocols. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, they can't disable the transmitter. Cut to Kes and Tuvok, and Kes senses something is wrong. That Seven is trying to contact her people. She tells Tuvok she can stop her. And in the Jeffries tube, Seven watches as the rippling wave effect appears to move across the wall, and then an electrical discharge knocks her to the floor. And Kes just says, "It's over.
It's all fine. No big deal. Don't worry about it."
Now walking in a corridor with Tuvok, Janeway says, "I can tell by the expression on your face you've got bad news." Tuvok just replies, I have no expression on my face. However, you are correct.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she can read him like a book.
Yeah. He definitely had an expression on his face.
Again, that Vulcan thing. We have no emotions. But I'm kind of annoyed. He explains a partial signal was sent by Seven, and Kes destabilized the Jeffries tube at a molecular level, and it's weakened the whole deck.
Whoops.
He says if Kes develops her abilities further, he's not sure it would be safe. There's a little levity where Janeway describes the current situation as an Ocampan who wants to become something more, and a Borg who's afraid of becoming something less. Here's to Vulcan stability. I like that.
That was pretty good.
That was a good line.
Yeah. Tuvok can't laugh or anything, of course, but he nods. Yeah.
Well, of course, it's a positive for the Vulcans. The Vulcans are very stable. Apart from the Ponfar, but we're very stable.
Apart from the Pomfar, exactly. But when we're not stable, we're the most not stable.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Arriving at the brig, we see that Seven is now in Pokey. She tells Janeway she didn't intend to deceive her. She did mean to help, but there was a chance to contact the collective. She will betray her. It's their nature. We are Borg. Oh, she's gone right back to where she started.
Still saying that.
Yep. Janeway points out she'd met Borg freed from the collective. It wasn't easy for them to accept their individuality, but they did, and Seven is no different. It will happen.
Okay. Is she talking about the Borg in Unity? Because they clearly did not accept it because they recreated a new collective. Who is she talking about?
Yeah, that's kind of a good point. I mean, at this moment, who have we got? Hugh and Picard are like the only two.
Okay, she's talked to Picard.
Yeah, who got over it in like 10 seconds.
She's definitely not talked to Hugh. Maybe later, but not now.
Yeah.
Maybe she means Picard. Because I read somebody saying it was from the people she met in Unity. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they wanted to be very much back as the collective.
Absolutely.
Well, that small group of 12 of them wanted everybody to be back as the collective.
Yeah.
Well, and what they wanted was more important than the rest of them.
Yeah. Right? We covered that, yeah.
Seven goes in a little different direction now, asking, when she is fully human and an independent individual, if she wishes to return to the collective, will Janeway permit it? Janeway, I love this, doesn't really answer.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, I don't think you'll want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's going to happen. But she could have said that, or she could have said, well, then when you're able to make a good decision, then we'll talk about your choices or something. But she's like, I don't think so.
Right. Seven then goes on this great guilt trip, describing how Janeway would imprison her in the name of humanity, and how she'd deny Seven the right to choose her own fate. That I thought was really good. I see the Borg here as conducting what I'd call psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to play on Janeway's own morals, which is fascinating because you're dealing with a creature who, and I think Seven at this point is still very significantly Borg.
Yeah.
That has no concept of morals, ethics, or empathy, and is trying to use them against you. It's great. I feel it's like the Borg flinging words around and trying to work on you.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to have this argument.
Yeah.
And she's saying things to Janeway like, is this what freedom means to be human, that I can't make my own choices and I'm stuck here in the brig? And, I mean, Janeway doesn't say to her, well, yes, this is what freedom is like if you're human. There are consequences to the things that you do, and you have to deal with that, right? You freely made a choice to try and kill all of us, and we had to lock you up. That's the way that it works.
Right.
I think, to me, this scene is a little bit like, at least the movie version of trying to deprogram someone from a cult.
Yeah. Underlying this whole episode, it is cult deprogramming.
Yeah.
Seven goes on to call Janeway a hypocrite, demanding again to be returned to the collective. But Janeway is utterly unmoved by all this posturing. Mulgrew plays that really well.
Mm-hmm.
She tells Seven she lost the capacity to make rational choices the moment she was assimilated. Until she's sure Seven has got that back, she'll make the choices for her. And the scene closes with Seven telling Janeway she's no different from the Borg. Oh.
Well, yeah.
There's another part where Seven says to Janeway, your attempt to assimilate this drone will fail. It's like she's even using her own language against Janeway. I felt this was a great scene. Your point about the cult deprogramming, I felt this scene is a compressed shorthand for the concept of cult deprogramming. I think you're right.
Yeah. It was pretty well acted on both sides.
Oh, I thought so. I just loved the idea of Seven trying to use Janeway's own language against her and even calling her a hypocrite. I loved all of that.
Yeah, she clearly doesn't have what it takes to argue with a Starfleet captain. Not yet, anyway.
No. Off to the mess hall, and Neelix is sharing Talaxian champagne with Kes. They reminisce about the past and how things didn't turn out quite as planned. Neelix admits he was a terrible boyfriend.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, not exactly. He kind of says how he held her back, but I think that's what he really means here.
Yeah, I think that is what it means.
They joke about Neelix's cooking, and she explains what's happening. It's like she can see into a place where the distinction between matter, energy, and thought no longer exist, and that's only the beginning. So, in Stargate terms, she's ascending, or she's becoming a Q.
Again, what could go wrong? I'm sure it's fine.
As she continues explaining to Neelix, she starts demonstrating her abilities, and the table in front of them begins to ripple, making Neelix very nervous. And when he asks her to stop, she accidentally knocks him to the ground through just sheer willpower.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear exactly what made him go flying.
Yeah. On the bridge, Harry detects strange energy readings in the mess, and Janeway can't raise Neelix. Tuvok and Janeway head down, arriving to find Kes kneeling on the floor, glowing, transparent and shimmering in this weird ghostly way. Then she snaps back solid and slumps down. So I think things are going from bad to worse there.
Although the scene ended weird, but I thought it was a good scene. It was like a conversation between adults, right? Where you just, you almost kind of laugh at something you went through because there's no point in rehashing anything at that juncture. And it was respectful. And we're not always great at that when it comes to relationship type stuff. So I actually quite like this scene, but it did have a strange ending to it.
Well, they never managed to really pull that off between Esri and Worf in Deep Space Nine.
No. Every time they tried, it just got worse.
In sickbay, again, the Doctor describes Kes's telesynaptic activity as increasing, but he doesn't know how to stop it. Tuvok explains Kes has started to destabilize at the subatomic level, which doesn't sound good.
No.
The Doctor is concerned next time it happens, Kes could just blow away. Janeway tells the Doctor this is beyond medical science now. It's into particle physics. Still in sickbay, the Doctor releases Kes to her quarters. Why?
Yeah, good question.
But she wants to stay for a while and spend some time with the Doctor. In the brig, Seven is pacing and starts throwing herself against the containment field.
People keep calling Janeway in this episode to come to them, and she's like, oh, God, can I get some peace?
Seven is now mumbling to herself, and she seems extremely emotional. She's referring to herself even as I, and saying, I cannot function this way. So I think she's turning a corner here. Again, Seven asks to be taken back to her own kind, but Janeway tells her, you are with your own kind, humans. Seven even starts crying, saying she doesn't even know what it's like to be a human. Janeway drops the containment field, telling Seven she's coming in. An angry Seven replies, I'll kill you. But Janeway, being reckless as ever, says, I don't think you will. You know, in some other timeline, Tom is telling Kes about how Janeway was killed by a Borg when she walked into her holding cell.
Right.
Janeway enters the cell and shows Seven who she was, Annika Hansen, saying she doesn't know a lot of things about her, like what her favorite color was. Seven knocks the pad away, shouting, irrelevant.
She's got a new word.
She demands to be taken back to the Borg. Janeway explains, saying, your mind is independent now, with its own unique identity. Seven objects, saying, you're forcing that identity on me. But Janeway's not backing down, saying, I'm just giving you back what was stolen from you. The existence you were denied. The child who never had a chance. That life is yours to live. Finally telling Seven, it is what you are. Don't resist it. Seven just shouts no and tries taking a swipe at Janeway, but mostly misses and almost falls. Janeway helps her back to the bunk and just sits holding the emotionally distraught Seven.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what happened there. Like, so you think she took like a feeble swing at her and then kind of fell over?
Yeah.
It was just weird because she ended up with tiny little Janeway trying to carry her to the bunk, which was awkward. There's a thing right at the beginning of the scene where she's flinging herself against the force field to get attention or to try to break it. I don't know. And I read Jerry Ryan saying that it was really weird to film that because there's no force field there. And so you're faking it. And she said she felt really awkward doing it. But I actually think she did a really good job. Because after I read that, I watched that scene again. I'm like, oh, it looks pretty realistic to me.
Yeah, it looked effective.
Yeah, it was better than earlier when she was on the bio bed sort of convulsing, which I thought was not as good. But the reason it's not as good is because she's in that suit that is holding her so stiffly that she's sort of unable to move naturally. And I'm sure that is really impacting her, as an actor in a lot of ways.
I think you told me about how one of the problems they had was when she moved too much, stuff would fall off the costume.
Yeah, well, it was when she would laugh or something, the eyepiece would fall off. I think I said that in the last episode. When she talks about how she's like struggling in the silence, right? That's something that she's finding really impossible at this moment.
Yeah.
I remember when we lived in our first place here in San Diego, we were on that noisy road, remember? And the buses would run all day and night, and it would be like, as the buses would stop. It was so noisy.
There was a bus stop outside our window.
Right outside of our window. And then we moved to a house, and we thought, wow, now we're living large, but we were on this super busy, noisy road. And the noisy road was like just below the bedroom window. It was so loud. And then we'd go back to South Dakota to visit my parents, and it would be so quiet in the night. It was freaky. Even though that's how I was raised, it was in that silence. But now I had adapted to the noise of where we were living. And then so that's what I was thinking about when she was saying, I don't like the silence. I'm like, that's what it was like. I would lie there thinking, oh my God, it's so quiet. It's just weird. Anything could happen here. The aliens would come and nobody would know. It's so quiet.
Yeah. What stood out for me with this scene is I think this is the point where the Borg programming is starting to break down.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, because now she's starting to have conflicts.
So her human individuality is starting to assert itself.
Yeah. And
whatever was programmed in there is starting to fail. And you're seeing her being emotional as well for the first time.
True.
You know, this is the first time in 20 odd years she's starting to feel these things.
Well, that's that cult thing again, where somebody is constantly telling you that whatever is happening is the best thing.
Yeah.
People just, they believe it.
Yeah.
And then when that thing is taken away, they're like, no, I need that thing. That thing is, that's the right thing. But yeah, that sort of human part of her brain that is now letting her actually process stuff independent of the collective is now in conflict with that feeling, where she has been convinced for however many years it was that they said she's been aboard that whole
20,
time. Through her formative years and into adulthood, she was told one thing. Well, as soon as that thing was gone, she was just rejecting any change. And now the two things together are colliding. And it's interesting to watch.
And Janeway did make the right call there.
Yeah, she did.
Reckless, but the right call.
Yeah. I mean, it could have gone badly. This whole thing could have gone badly. Almost did go badly, but it's the Star Trek call, right? I mean,
oh, totally. We
had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into a log by Janeway with a Voyager flyby, and it's got a lot less Borg-looking bits on the hull now.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Warp is still offline, and they don't know if the Borg have detected them. And Kess's psychokinetic abilities are continuing to damage the ship. So this is turning into a very bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Janeway goes to see Kess, and Kess tells her she knows what she needs to do. It's time for her to leave Voyager. Something important is happening to her, and staying will put the whole ship in danger. Kess explains she's transforming. She's becoming something more. Janeway cautions this might not be real, and she doesn't want to let her go. But Kess is resolute. Something is happening, and she wants to see it through. Janeway finally tells her she was a vital part of this family. She's going to miss her. And then Kess abruptly says, "It's starting."
Kate Mulgrew said that she struggled in these scenes because she really didn't want to lose Jennifer.
Oh.
She'd gotten quite close with her, and they were, because they've been working together for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you can see that she has tears in her eyes really quickly in this scene, but she still holds it together for the most part.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that the emotions here are real, and they're fitting, of course, for what's happening.
It's a really good scene.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's a shame that Jennifer Lean and the character of Kess had to leave the show. But it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a weak argument that they didn't know how to write for her. I mean, it's a thing that you created. You could have changed her.
Yeah.
you could have done something that changed her lifespan, right? You could have done something that took away her abilities or gave her one specific ability.
Yeah.
Something that you would find interesting. But instead, they chose to just write her out and write somebody else in. So, I think it's silly to blame a character when you're in a sci-fi show where you can change the character.
Right.
You have the ability to do that. But yeah, I think there were also things going on behind the scenes with the actor, and there's not a lot of detail about that, which is fine. I don't want to get into anybody's business, but I mean, ultimately she got out of acting and, had a lot of personal problems. And it's not like you can't Google search and find where she is now, which, hopefully she's somewhere happy. But a lot went into that decision for her to leave. And it's too bad because I think you could have done a lot with this character. They wrote themselves into a corner and they didn't try to write themselves out. Instead, they just sort of went, we get somebody else. We need boobs. You know what we need? We need boobs.
Oh, dear. Janeway is now helping Kes down a corridor, and she calls the bridge, ordering a shuttle ready for launch and for Tuvok to meet them. As they're staggering along, panels start exploding behind them. Harry can't get a transport as Kes's molecules are destabilizing. As you say, there's always a reason you can't use the transport.
Always a reason.
There's more running and explosions as Kes seems to be completely losing control of her power, and we see the hull of Voyager starting to ripple.
Yeah, that was cool.
And Tom reports the molecular bonds are starting to break down. Tuvok makes it to them, and Kes is starting to fade in and out, and he jumps straight in, mind-melding with Kes to delay the transformation. It appears really difficult for him, and he keeps telling her to delay for a moment, only for a moment. It seems to work, and Janeway helps Kes continue. The shuttle launches, and Kes hails, saying, "It's happening," and Harry reports her atomic structure is completely destabilizing. On the shuttle, Kes says, "My gift to you," as she begins to glow white, and the shuttle turns into a bright light. In engineering, B'Elanna reports the warp core is back online, and its output just keeps increasing. Tom at the helm reports they're traveling at an impossible speed, and I notice they don't say how fast.
No, they're very careful not to say how fast. Harry says, "We're coming apart," but we didn't. Like, what are you talking about, Harry? Calm down.
We get an effect shot of Voyager flying at extremely high warp, and as they drop out, they discover they're 9,500 light years away from where they were. They're clear of Borg space, and 10 years closer to home.
First of all, back when Tuvok grabs her for the mind meld, again, I was like, didn't we already do this? This is a bad idea. Just grabbing people and doing random mind melds is very dangerous, but we do it anyway.
They go wrong far more often than Vulcans will admit, according to the Doctor.
Yeah. And I don't remember when we first watched this, if we knew this was Kes's character leaving and being replaced. I mean, we probably did because it was probably like in TV Guide or some magazines or something. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was because you used to get, was it Entertainment Weekly?
Yeah, of course. No. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was all in that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we probably knew then that she was leaving, but that scene where she says, "My gift to you," when I watched it this time, and I'm imagining probably something similar happened before, I got like goosebumps because it was just because you knew something big was coming.
Right.
And the line was nicely delivered. It was very dramatic. And then it was, followed by a big dramatic explosion. And I was like, oh, what's going to happen? And I just really thought that was cool.
Oh, yeah. It's a fantastic way to leave the show.
Yeah.
Back to where the show opened, the mini Borg cube in the cargo bay. And we see Seven in her new outfit, which apparently includes high heels. And
yeah,
I keep getting this Gozer the Gozerian vibe from this outfit.
Yeah, I can see that. With the sort of overall look, I can see that. But this outfit she's wearing is completely ridiculous.
I think you'll find the Doctor said it's both practical and efficient.
And we're supposed to believe that the Doctor gave her this outfit. It's, first of all, when I'm looking at her, I keep thinking, can I see her ribs? That thing is squeezing the life out of her. I think it's because there are sort of ripples in the outfit, right? But the heels, the tightness of that, and the way she's standing when they first do the shot of her in the outfit, the whole thing is so ridiculous. Oh my God, and the crotch is so ridiculously tight. Can she breathe? Can she move? And somehow this is the outfit the Doctor came up with. It's so impractical. Why would the hologram come up with this outfit? I could see Tom coming up with it.
I'm struggling to find a situation in which high heels Well, unless you're a politician trying to look taller, in which high heels are appropriate.
Well, we talked about in Deep Space Nine when we laughed in the early days. You really liked the way Kira would walk sort of like a cowboy.
Oh, I loved the Kira strut in the early episodes.
The strut, yeah, it was really good. But she said that they told her to stop walking like that, and she said she couldn't unless they gave her heels. So then they put her in heels. Now, it's putting a person in her position, not as an actor, but in the character's position in heels is insanity. It's not what would happen. People who do jobs where they actually have to run and be more mobile or stand on their feet all day are not wearing those shoes.
Yeah.
This comes from, well, she was a dancer. She was probably slightly different, but she was probably trained in shoes like that. But also models. They're trained to do that because it lifts their calves, makes their legs look a particular way that whoever's looking at it are going to want them to look. So to put that all into this character is an absolute joke. But here we are.
Back to the show. The Doctor...
Sorry. I
get you.
When we get done with this, we should just do like a big search on all of my notes to see how many times I have the word boobs in my search or in my notes.
The Doctor explains to Janeway he's removed 82% of the Borg implants, and the remaining ones are stable and better than anything he could synthesize. Wow, I'm surprised the Doctor is being so humble.
Mm-hmm.
Seven describes the situation as acceptable. Janeway tells Seven she will need to regenerate in a Borg alcove until her human metabolism can function on its own. She'll consider granting Seven access to the rest of the ship, providing she doesn't try to get them all assimilated again.
And that's fair.
And Seven replies, it will not happen again. Which, of course, a Borg would say it won't happen again.
Sure.
Janeway finishes telling Seven, if you need anything, contact me, and gives her a Starfleet comm badge. As Janeway leaves, Seven says, red. The child you spoke of, the girl. Her favorite color was red.
So we've got some memories.
We close on Tuvok lighting the Vulcan meditation lamp from earlier and placing it in the window of his quarters. And we get a zoom out from his window and a final Voyager flyby, now with very little remaining Borg technology.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
Well, I assume you have some overanalysis.
Yes, I do. Okay, first one.
Mm-hmm.
How much of the Borg behavior is programmed? So her reactions at the beginning, do you think that's all like programmed in?
Sure. Well, I also think they keep implying that the collective or the hive mind is almost like a drug that they get addicted to in a way that they are sure they can't live without. And that's probably something that they do program in so that they will always come back to it, right? If something happens, they'll do whatever they can to come back to it.
Oh.
That would be my guess.
Oh, that's a good point. That could be another part of this. Part of this episode is coming down from a chemical addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea, though, that the Borg end up addicted to being part of the collective as well.
Mm-hmm.
God, the Borg really are nasty. They really are awful to their members.
It's purely a cult. They just happen to also add a physiological side to it. Actually, that's my next overanalysis point of the whole subtext of this episode is deprogramming from a cult. Mm-hmm.
And from my reading on the subject, it takes more than about 44 minutes.
40-ish minutes.
Okay, next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Kess's new unlocked abilities. Did 8472 cause this?
Oh, yeah, that's one of my questions in my overanalysis is, did 8472 unlock something in her brain or give her something new that she didn't have before? We, of course, do not know the answer to that question, but there's all the implications with the Ocampa that they used to be a different kind of species and were somewhere along the line they were held back or devolved in some way. So, did this, all of the invasions into her brain, did that unlock something or did they leave something behind?
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Interesting. I took it as 8472 unlocked something.
Okay.
Because her ability seemed very much like what the Caretaker's X was able to do. Remember when she was destroying Voyager and she was making it come apart at the subatomic level?
That's true, yeah.
This is what Kess can do. I think that Caretaker species or whatever were exploiting the Ocampa. That the Ocampa have this natural ability that the Ocampa, if you like, can ascend to a higher plane or to another form of existence. And the caretaker's people were exploiting them. And the caretaker's ex, that's exactly what she was doing with her little warp bubble, or a little bubble outside of, in subspace or whatever, where she lived. She was using their Kampa to get it. And Kess's, if you like, because 8472 unlocked it, Kess has actually managed to, on her own, reach the pinnacle of what the Akampa can be, or are supposed to be.
Interesting. I think that's a pretty good guess based on what we know and what we've seen. Do we ever learn anything else, or is this the end?
No, she makes one more appearance.
Oh, she makes one more. Okay.
Which I can't remember which season it's in.
Okay. Because we can only go on the information we have so far.
Yeah.
Or what you remember about the show, because I don't remember anything. But, I mean, I think that's a pretty good guess. Yeah. And maybe that was part of the reason why the caretaker and his girlfriend got into a fight, because he was trying to protect them and keep them children. And she was basically exploiting them and trying to take their powers. And he was like, I don't like this. And they had a big fight.
Oh, wow. And she went off and left him to his own devices.
Yep.
Next thing, more Borg stuff. So the Doctor talked about how the Borg implants, they like suppress the human immune system and response. This makes me wonder, so do the Borg like have a template for like what their physiology should be? Let's say the original race that the Borg were. They have a particular, they like a warmer temperature. We know about that. They have like the gray skin with like the dappling colors on it. Is part of this the whole problem that the technology kind of has taken over and it's trying to make everything into the original race that the Borg were, that it's using their physiology? Because I'm thinking about the amount of effort it would be trying to make the human into this other race and keeping it all working. So the Borg technology is trying to turn them into what the Borg race were. And they've never, like, fixed that.
You think there was an original Borg species?
Yes.
I guess possibly to do a 7 and say inefficient. Maybe that's what they viewed that as, is trying to change them into something else physically was inefficient.
Yeah.
Like, remember in Prodigy, the Borg actually had some that were differently shaped and had completely different features, whereas what we see in the live action shows, they're all pretty much humanoids. Yeah. But that's budget, not because they're trying to make them all look like that, which is, I think, why Prodigy was free to make them, have different shapes, which is interesting.
Yeah, animation works much better for that, yeah.
It was easier, obviously, in animation to do that. So I'm not sure, I guess, either that there's even an original Borg species, because what is it? Was it the Queen? No.
Whatever the race of the Queen was, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I always took it as because the Borg, when they assimilated, well, and this is the live action, when they assimilated, people ended up with the grey skin and the dappling. And if you look at the Queen, like in First Contact, she has that same sort of style and look. And that's where I'm like, was that the original race of the Borg, that they looked like that? So their technology is trying to make people into them.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess I've always looked at it like, however they started, if it was one person who started it, that person figured out how to create a collective mind with maybe just one other person, and they kept sort of growing from that. But the skin pigments and the sort of general look of everybody didn't matter anymore. Like the vitamins needed to keep your, skin looking a particular way. It was just, you don't need those. Those are just inefficient. They're just not a good use of time and energy. So we just suck all those out because it doesn't matter. And it also doesn't even matter if the drone just dies from malnutrition. It doesn't make any difference. We just move on and we have a different one. So to me, it was more like none of the uniqueness mattered. More than we got to make them look like us originally, because that doesn't feel Borg to me.
Yeah. So it's just they're aiming for what works rather than a particular look.
What is the most efficient?
Yeah.
And you get sort of the most bang for your buck out of. And
maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, that what they're actually doing is they're suppressing the immune system because they just want all the implants to work.
Yeah.
They're not aiming for anything in particular in terms of the biology.
Right.
Or the DNA or whatever. They want the implants to work. That's all they care about.
Well, and the goal is to make everything as similar as possible, not necessarily to meet an early model of something. Because I would think that the Borg would feel like their current state is the best state.
Yeah.
Until they assimilate the next thing. And then that's the best state.
Then that's the best state. Yeah.
Rather than looking back and trying to go back to what they were. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And with that, I think that wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you, Kim.
I wonder, how did we recover from the whole destabilizing and molecular bonds breaking down? Just at the end, everything was fine.
Yes. I mean, once Kes left, everything was fine. Okay. I can headcanon out of that.
Okay.
When Kes ascended and transferred Voyager 9,500 light years, she fixed all the problems that she caused on the ship.
Oh, maybe she did.
Because she has Q-like powers. There we go.
Okay. I was thinking that we probably didn't want Kes to go out negatively. I mean, just kill her like they killed Dax on Deep Space Nine, for example.
Yeah.
Or they didn't want her to leave sort of afraid or have a tragic death. So instead, they kind of spent the episode convincing us that she was evolving for the good, not devolving. And the only thing I'd say about that is I think that's good, right? They certainly did not give the character of Dax that same respect, but I do think it happened too quickly. If we had done it over several episodes, that would have made a bit more sense, but it just felt like we just crammed it too much into this.
Yes, throughout Scorpion, you could have,
Exactly. If it had started happening after the first contact with 8472, and they made a big deal of it, that would have helped. But they were very busy then trying to establish that they're adding this new character. And so they had different priorities. So, that's kind of how I was thinking about her leaving. The only other thing I have is that Kate Mulgrew famously was not fond of this change, right, from Kes to Seven. And we talked about it in the last episode. But what I will say is you just cannot see it in her performance. She is a pro, at least on screen. And you see no animosity between them. You see no animosity between Janeway and Seven. Yeah. Which is a testament, I guess, to just good acting between the two of them.
Right. Well, just, professionals.
Yeah. But it doesn't sound like it was pleasant on set, it's too bad.
Yeah.
If I start in Janeway's leadership corner. I still say the line where she says you must comply. I just don't think it fit. I can see your point that if she wanted to get a reaction, that was the way to do it.
Right.
But Janeway wouldn't ever say that to anybody else. So it just felt weird to me.
Yeah, okay.
And what I took note of here was that Janeway was just doing her level best to keep things together this episode. People were just constantly calling her. They were dragging her down to sick bay, dragging her to engineering, dragging her to the cargo bay, dragging her to the brig. She just kept getting calls. And every time she had a call, I was thinking, oh man, I'd roll my eyes. But she was just like, oh, okay. And she just got up and did it.
It is like that day in management. One of those days in management where it's like, can nobody make a decision on their own? Or does everything have to come to me?
Yeah, I have a couple examples of that. There was one time, you remember my very first day in management when there was somebody in the office that people were convinced had the flesh-eating virus. He was just having an allergic reaction to something. But anyway, people were freaking out. And my manager was out, so I called her because I didn't know what to do. And she just laughed her head off at me. Like, you better figure out how to handle that. And that was absolutely wild. And then there was another time where I remember somebody coming to me. It was not my job by any stretch of the imagination because I was in engineering. And somebody came to me because there was no other grown-up apparently in the office at the time and was asking me to pick which style envelope we should use to send something out. I'm like, I'm in engineering. I don't know. I'm like, how about this one? And the person went, okay. And they went and used that one. Yeah. And that was a good example of where I just thought, was there really nobody else for you to ask? Why?
Yeah, Jane, that's every day for Janeway.
That is, and she is the boss, but I was not the boss. That's why it was so funny. But anyway, that's some days in leadership are like that. You'll sit down and you'll think, and then the phone rings, and then you just want to throw your phone across the room.
And it's one thing after the other.
Yeah, it's one thing after another, exactly. Well, women in the future, I don't even know. I just don't know. We talked about it in the last episode that this character ultimately of Seven is great. Written, great. Acting, great. And of course, she comes back however many years later in Picard. And we're all about Seven. But there's a reason when she comes back in Picard, she is not wearing this frickin' shiny cat suit that she's wearing here, because that cat suit is an insult to women everywhere. You cannot function in that thing. And it is completely illogical that she would wear it or that somebody would ask her to wear it. I cannot imagine. Notice she does not sit down. That woman cannot sit down in that outfit.
Yeah.
She probably can't breathe. It's probably crushing her ribs. It's like a corset from the, 1400s.
Victorian era.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it makes it to the end of the season. I didn't look up when they make the switch.
She definitely changes to something else. And because we're trying to record 2 episodes this weekend in advance of Comic-Con, because we know we won't do it, I've watched the next episode, which I hate doing because it confuses me.
Yeah.
But I did watch it, and...
Are you going to give me spoilers now?
Oh, no. Only that there's more of this outfit in that next episode, and it's even more ridiculous how the things that go on with the way she looks in the next episode. And I just cannot... How you can act when you can't breathe, I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
But let's just say this is not a step forward for women in the future. That's what I'm going to say. I feel bad Atiba's not here for this conversation because I know this was his number one thing he wanted to talk about with me is how I feel about Seven's outfits. So there's just nothing else to say about it. So I will go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What's your rating?
I'm giving this one a thumbs up. I like the episode. I like the idea of the episode. It was sad to see Jennifer Lean go. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting introduction to 7 of 9. And I did like the story of Janeway trying to deprogram this person who's been a member of a cult.
Yeah.
And I liked, you saw the best aspects of Janeway, the compassion, the empathy for them, but this absolute resolve that she needed to get 7 to a point where she could make her own decisions, where she could remember who she was and wasn't just parroting the Borg, what she'd been programmed to think. So I really did enjoy this episode. So thumbs up.
Yeah, I also give it a thumbs up, which is amazing. Again, with having to put up with this nonsense of the cat suit and the boobs sort of invading the show is so strange. But it's a good episode, and Jerry Ryan is very good in it, and Kate Mulgrew is very good in it, and Jennifer Lean is also good in it. So I think they gave Kes at least a positive send-off, and I liked the idea that she was able to push them out of Borg space, push them closer to home, so she really was able to give them a gift at the end, and actually thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that wraps up Season 4, Episode 2. Come back next week for Episode 3. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at ReBingeIT. Or you can join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.